Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cognitive Discourse. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about, it's more of a story time. Trying something a little bit new. I wanted to, not only do I want to share my views on here, but I also wanted to kind of let you guys get to know me. So some of you who may or may not know, I'm a musician. So the intro music that you hear at the beginning of every episode, the outro that you hear at the end of every episode, I wrote and composed all of that. I recorded it, I edited it, and I mixed it and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I've been a musician since I was about 14 years old, and I've been in a lot of bands. With that being said, something happened earlier this week with a previous band that I was in, and I was already thinking about trying to share some of these stories with you guys, and I was kind of on the fence about it. But once this came out, and I noticed it, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and release an episode where I talk about this, and kind of, I guess, not only give my side of the story, but kind of give you guys an idea of how I feel about the whole situation. Because at this point, I really don't know how I feel about it. And that's basically, in short, there was a band that I used to be a part of, and for that, for what I'm going to be talking about, I'm not going to say any name. I'm going to try not to say any names. Hopefully I don't slip. But this band that I used to be in, I had recorded a track with them. When I had joined the band, we were in the process of writing new material. Well, I actually was able to record a track in studio with said band, and this was about 5 years ago. And that particular track just got released on the new EP that they just released. Mind you, they've released prior EPs. And when this one got released, that song was on there. Now, mind you, the past couple EPs that they've released, songs that I helped write, for the most part, they were on the EPs, but they just, the bass player rewrote them, and the bass player in the band at the time recorded those songs. This particular song, they never re-recorded it. The main guy of the band, I guess, kept that recording all these years and released it upon this new EP. So, he did give me credit, and that's how I know it was me, because I heard the track and I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds like my bass line. And it's a little odd because all the other songs that I helped write, those that eventually got recorded, all those bass lines are different. Yet this bass line didn't change at all. And it sounded like my play style. Like I heard it and I was like, so I checked the bottom, the credits, for the song, and my name's there. So I did get credited for the song. Am I going to see any money coming my way? Probably not. But with that said, it's kind of like the way I left the band, I don't know how I feel about it. So I'm going to go ahead and explain how all that happened and kind of get you guys where I'm at. I'm not trying to have you pick a side or anything like that. I'm just telling my point of view. Every story has three sides. The side of each person who's telling the story, and then the actual truth itself. So yeah, I'm just going to give you my perspective on it. And maybe you guys can give me some advice and let me know how you would approach the situation, and if I'm being weird in the way that I'm thinking. So how I joined this band, this was about, I want to say 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, because my daughter was a newborn at the time. And I hadn't been on stage in a while. The last band that I had been in prior to that was like in 2009. So it had been a while since I had been in a band, and I really just wanted to play shows. I missed playing shows. Music has always been therapy for me. And, I've been a solo artist longer than I've actually been in bands now, with the way time has gone. So I enjoy writing music by myself. But there are some hardships when you write music by yourself, and the two big ones for me is when you hit that musical wall and you don't know where to go transition wise, or which direction you want to take the song. A lot of the times having somebody you can bounce off ideas off of, even if it's just one other person, makes the job a little bit easier. The other one being not being able to do shows. Not being able to do shows is really rough. For me, anyway. Like, I like performing. There's, I think every artist or movie star, anybody who's famous in entertainment, there's a bit of narcissism and egocentricness that's, if that's not even a word, that kind of push them to do what they do. There's a part of us that likes that attention, and I know for me, like, I thrive off of it. I like the interaction, being on stage and eyes on us, so I remember just kind of cruising around Facebook and whatnot, and I kept seeing, in the state and city that I live in, I'm part of a lot of music groups within the city, and so you see posts all the time of people looking for bands, people looking for musicians, bass players, guitar players, drummers, singers, keyboard players, whatnot, or people starting bands and they're looking to reach out to the community to see if they can build a band that way. Like, the internet's great. It's really awesome that way. The problem with it is the majority of the bands that I come across in this town aren't my cup of tea. Either I'm just not a fan of their play style, or they have nothing to show. So, as a musician going in, like, I'm like, well, what do you have to offer? So I'm not wasting my time. And, nowadays for me, I feel like you really don't have an excuse to not have a recording of what you're showing off. It's so easy to record nowadays. I mean, look at the amount of people who are doing podcasts nowadays. And, with 2020 being the way it was, you're seeing a lot of people doing podcasts. A lot of people are starting to experiment and learning how to mix and master and all that stuff. So I feel like nowadays, definitely, it's not an excuse to not have something to show people. Especially when you run into people who are like, I've been playing music for this many years and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, cool. Show me some of the stuff that you've done in all these years that you've been playing, and they got nothing. So a lot of times it's always dead ends, and I never really paid too much mind to bands. But this particular band, the main guy was looking for a bass player. It was a 3-piece band, so, very small band. The guitar player was also the singer. Excuse me, sorry, I just woke up. And then you have the drummer and the bassist. It was a 3-piece rock and roll band, which, I was like, okay, well, let me check them out. I listened to their stuff, and they were very radio friendly, let's put it that way. But overall, musically, not only did the music sound professional, like it was done in a studio, but the songs were cool. Like, I could groove to them, and it was very rock and roll. Like, for me, I was intrigued by it because I saw it as a challenge. I've never been in an actual, like, rock and roll band. I've been in a lot of metal bands, but this was like radio rock. Think like Queens of the Stone Age meets like you could tell the vocalist was like a big Elvis fan. So like Queens of the Stone Age meets Elvis meets like Rolling Stones. It was, like I said, very rock and roll. So I was intrigued by it, and I was like, hell yeah, man. Like, ultimately being in a band, I the first thing is I have to kind of like you. Like, I have to like the music to even be interested in wanting to try out. Because I have to enjoy playing the music. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'll play anything. I'll be in any band, especially if it's a paid gig, because, I mean, that helps pay the bills. But there still has to be some integrity on my end, and I have to enjoy what I'm doing. And I guess it helps that I'm open-minded to different genres of music. So, if you're listening to this and they're like, well, would you join a country band, or would you join a Tejano band or a pop band? Like, yeah, man, if I can groove with the stuff, if the music's fun to play, I really don't give a shit what kind of genre it is. The music itself is just, if it's fun to play and I enjoy playing it, I'll play it. And if I can get paid for it, hell yeah, and especially something like a country band or a pop band, like that's easy money. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we can do a whole episode on my view on on sellouts and all that stuff. If you guys want me to do an episode on that, just let me know and I'll do an episode on that. But before I get too far off topic here, so I reached out and I sent him a message and said, hey man, I'm a bass player. I play multiple instruments, but bass is kind of my baby. That's my go-to. So I sent him some of the music that I've done in the past and said, hey man, I typically am a metal guy, but I'm intrigued by your sound, and I definitely would like to come in and try out because it's something new for me as well. Like I'm taking it as like a learning experience, right? So I reach out to him, he gets back to me, and he's basically like, hey man, here's some songs. He gave me, I think, like 3 songs that were really poor quality. You could tell it was a guitar and a drummer in a garage recording on a cell phone. He was like, these are some new tracks that we're working on. Me and the drummer, check them out. If you want, think of some bass lines, and maybe we can set up a rehearsal and you can come by and we can jam out. Or if you want to look at some of the older tracks that we have and learn some of those songs, come in, let me know and we can set up some rehearsal time and you can come in and basically try out. So I listened to the new stuff, and I kind of real quickly just threw some bass lines, like some ideas out there. I wrote bass lines that kind of just covered it, just real basic bass lines, not too crazy, but groovy enough to where it fit the song. And I recorded them on my phone and then sent them back to him, and he liked them. He was like, hey man, I like the direction you're going in with these tracks. Like, let's set up some time and you come by and you can meet the drummer, you meet me, and we'll jam out. I said, cool. And I let him know right off the bat, like, hey man, I do have all my own equipment. I have extra equipment if it need be. I have, drummer stuff. I have guitar stuff on top of my bass stuff. And transportation is not an issue. But I did let him know, my mom, at the time I was in a weird place financially. So, I was using my mom's truck, and, my mom, was a private driver. And so she used her truck for work to carry people around, her private customers. But for the most part, she was available when I needed her to be available, and she just let me use the truck, and she would go with me and help me take the gear and stuff like that. My wife would go as well too, because like I said, my little one was only a few months old at the time. I think she was like 6-7 months old. So, anyway, no, actually, I think I was in the band right before she was born. Yeah, because I think they met her when she was a newborn. Anyway, so I go to practice. I show up, we play, we jam out, we have a good time. Everything seems really cool, right? Well, originally I went into the mindset of, I'm going to go into this band. I'm basically going to be, a gun for hire. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to play what he wants me to play, and I'm just going to have fun with it. Like, I'm not going to take it too seriously. I'm not going to put my Joseph touch, if you will. I'm not going to tell him how to run his band. This is his project. And at the time, I was already starting my solo stuff, and I was like, I'm focused on that. This band is basically just allowing me to go out and play shows. Like, that's what I wanted to do. That was my goal for the band originally when I went into the band. I didn't want to have deep roots and deep ties to the band. I just wanted to play, and if I could get paid to play, that's even better. And I let him know that when I got there. Like, when we did our first jam session, I got picked right out the gate, because later on I found out, like, there weren't a lot of people. Like, they had a few people trying out, and they had been trying to get a bass player for about 4 or 5 months, and people were just like really flaky. And so, I knew how to play the songs, and I knew he from what he told me, he liked where I was going with the new stuff. So he right away made the call and was like, hey man, if you want the spot, it's there. And so I basically told him, like, that's cool, man. Well, just know that, this is your project. I'm not going to step on your toes. What you say goes. I'm not coming here with an ego or anything like that. I just want to play music. I just want to have fun. I just want to play shows. And I'll play whatever you want me to play. In the beginning, he was like, yeah, that's cool, man. But as practices went on, he started telling me, like, hey man, because I would tell him, like, is that bass line cool? Like, you good with that bass line? And he's like, man, at the end of the day, like, you're part of this band. I want you to put you into these songs. Like, be groovy, but be you. Like, put yourself into it. And I fell for it. Like, I shouldn't have, and I fell for it, and I got sucked in, and I became part of the band. But at the same time, when you have a guy who's constantly patting you on the back, constantly talking about how good you are and how thankful he is to have you, and it feels genuine, you tend to kind of fall into that. You know what I mean? You tend to fall in and be like, yeah, man, I want to make this band part of me as well. And that's kind of what happened, So we started practicing, we started getting ready for shows. He had a whole lineup that was coming up. And so we were grinding it out. We were finishing a lot of the new tracks that he was doing. And, I had to learn some of the old stuff. Me and him were kind of on the same wavelength in the sense of like, we don't really want to play a lot of the old stuff. We want to focus on a bunch of new stuff because we're kind of a newer band. The band kind of took a turn for like a more raw, it had a more raw, high energy sound versus what the original 3 EPs sounded like. The original 3 EPs were very polished, like I said, very radio friendly type stuff. And the way that the drummer played, because he wasn't the original drummer, he was a replacement, and I'll get to him here in a little bit as well, and a little bit about his story. But he was a very raw drummer. Like he, even when it came down to learning the tracks from the old EPs, those songs always sounded a little more aggressive when we played them live because he didn't really play them the way they were recorded. Which was fun for me because, I, for the most part, I try to get the meat of the song, the way the recording was, but because he played the drums the way he did, it allowed me to kind of experiment as well. So those songs always kind of sounded a little more aggressive than the original EP versions. And it's the same way with the new tracks that we started writing. A lot of the newer stuff was very raw, very aggressive. So there was, a little bit of my metal side was enjoying that. It still wasn't metal. It was far from it. And I was dabbling in a lot of like blues centric type bass scales, but overall, like I said, it was the band had morphed just a little bit, and it had more of a raw sound to it. And like some of the old band members used to come to our shows and stuff too, and they noticed it as well. So everything was going good in the beginning. Like I said, we were doing shows, I was learning new songs, we were writing new songs, and we were having a good time. We were having a blast. But early on, I still felt like, and I don't want to make assumptions about people. These are based off of just the way the vibe was. I don't really want to make assumptions, but I did feel that I didn't get, I don't want to say respect, but I got questioned a lot. I think my motives got questioned a lot on certain ideas that I had as far as like promoting the band and stuff. Certain musical choices that I made started to get kind of questioned, and I think a lot of that came with just age. Our age difference was pretty significant. I was in my mid-20s at the time, and I believe he was probably in his late 30s, early 40s at the time. So there was that, because again, this dude is very, very ego-driven, and that became more prominent to me later on during the towards the end of my stay with the band, and then the initial fallout. It became very apparent that he was an egocentric person. So anyway, we're doing shows, we're having fun, and like I said, the reason why I felt that way was because a lot of times I would make suggestions. I remember this one time. I'm a very boots on the ground type of guy, and so we had a show. We were doing a show. I'm the type of guy that I network a lot, and I'm kind of the guy that, like, even if you don't know me, you know who I am. Sometimes they're like, I don't know that guy, but I've seen him around, and I know somebody that knows him. Not to mention, I kind of have like a very common face. There's times when people are like, "Do I know you?" Like, probably. Like, I've seen you somewhere. Like, there are a lot of people that look like me too. So, anyway, I have a tendency of, if I am part of a project, I like to keep other people that I respect and admire a part of those projects. And if you know me on a personal level, you know that. And that's not me trying to boast, but I tend to bridge a lot of gaps. I introduce a lot of people to other people, and then they build relationships, and whatever they do outside of that is between them. But a lot of times I'm the initiator. I'm the guy that introduces people, like, hey, this guy, meet this guy, these guys, and I put a good word in for each other, and I do the introductions. I'm very open and I'm just that guy. So there's a lot of relationships that I've helped start that have blossomed into, really good relationships between those people. But if you break it down to its core, a lot of those people met through me. Again, not trying to, I don't need the recognition and the pat on the back. It's just something that happens. So that's what happened. One of the another local band here that I was actually a backup for. I never actually played a show. I think if anything, I was used to scare their bass player into showing up to shows more frequently. But there was a time when their bass player, he was going through some stuff, and so I was approached to be a backup bassist for that band. And I went to a couple of rehearsals, but never, like I said, never really did a show, because then the bass player kind of, I think, noticed and felt threatened and started going to shows and performing, which was great. Like it is what it is. I was just there to have a good time. So, but we ended up getting involved with that band, started doing shows with them, and they had a pretty decent following in our town. They're a pretty well-known band here for the genre that they play in. And so one show I had come up with the idea of saying, like, hey man, I'd like to make a compilation CD with all the bands that are on the bill, and then I'll take the flyer, because the main guy in the band would also make the flyers and stuff. I was like, so just give me a copy of the flyer. I'll go to Kinko's, I'll shrink it down, and I'll make it small enough to fit in a CD case. And so I'll get a hold of the other bands. I'll see if they want to be a part of it, and I'll get some tracks from them, and I'll make this little compilation CD of all the bands that are going to be playing that night. And then I'll write on it and have the bands and all that stuff, and kind of where you can find these people, and so we can hand it out. So it's a little bit more than just a flyer. And it got met with a little bit of resistance. The main guy was a numbers guy, and to a point I understand where he's coming from, in the sense of like being like, well, I want to know where this money's going, and doing that's going to cost money, and blah 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 blah. Whereas I'm kind of have that mentality of like, I understand that, but it also takes money to make money, and if we're trying to get some organic traffic, we have to kind of work for it. So I just brought the idea up to him. In my head, I was already gonna finance it. I was just bringing it up to him to see if he was on board, to see if the drummer was on board, so we could just further go through with it. And if he offered band money to pay for it, then great. If not, I was gonna do it out of my own pocket, because again, at the end of the day, I wanted the band to succeed. If I'm a part of it, so of course I want it to succeed. I'm a fan of the band. I want it to succeed. To this day, like even though I'm not a fan of the guy who runs the band, I'm a fan of the band. I'm a fan of the music, and I still jam the music to this day. You know what I mean? And that's the only reason why the new EP is even on my radar, because I still listen to them. So with that being said, I went up to him, and I got paid playing with this band. So when I got paid, I never even took the money. I basically told him, like, hey man, with my cut of the money, just keep it, and we'll use it towards band stuff. Because we wanted to go to the studio, we wanted to tour, we wanted to do a lot of stuff, we wanted to get more merchandise, we wanted to do all these things, and we know that it costs money. So if we're getting paid, I'd rather take that money and put it towards the band and invest in the band. because he had the same mindset. He didn't keep the money. He basically did the same thing, and the drummer agreed too. So we were all in agreement. Like when we play shows, and none of that money's going to come to us yet. We're going to basically take that money and put it towards things that need to get done: studio time, merchandise, touring, all that stuff. And that's basically how we were able to record said track that made me do this episode. So, he's giving me a lot of grief about doing the CDs and this and that, and like, well, where's the money gonna come from to finance it? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, dude, I'll take care of all of that. Don't even worry about it. Like, I'll make the initial investment. And again, in my mind, I'm thinking like, you don't have to pay me back later or anything like that. Like, I'm gonna use my own dollar, and I'm gonna pay for this because the overall investment, the overall outcome of said investment meant more to me than him being like, okay, well then I'll finance it. Like, no, I'll pay for it, and if this helps get us a bigger fan base, even if it's 5-10 people, I'll feel like I got repaid. You know what I mean? So I went to the store, and again, this shit doesn't cost much. At the time, CDs were still semi-relevant, so finding blank CDs wasn't that hard. If anything, when I brought it up to the other band, the main guy in that band was super stoked about it. He even gave me blank CDs. He was like, hey man, I have like a stack of them if you want some. I was like, hey, yeah, that helps, man. And I'll burn them and I'll give them back to you, so you can hand them out. And, so like I didn't, like the other band thought it was amazing. Like they were, great idea. Fuck yeah, let's do it. So I took the time to go and buy more CDs. I used the ones that other band gave me, and for about, I want to say 3 or 4 days, we just burned. For the whole day, just me and my wife was helping me. I had 2 burners going. I had my laptop and my desktop at the time, and we had 2 burners going, and we're just burning songs. I got 2 tracks from one of the bands. I got 2 tracks from every band, I think, including our own band. So it was a nice little compilation CD, and we're burning them. We're writing them real nice. I'm writing the actual band name and the song titles on the CD. I'm making them look really, really nice, And then I take on the insert. We have the insert, and it has the name with social medias. I think it was only like 2 or 3 bands that were playing, so I had room to write all this stuff. And then, like I said, I went to Kinko's, and I shrunk down the flyers so they were small enough to fit inside the CD case, and that had all the information of where the show was going to be, what time, the date, all that fun stuff. The cover and everything, and it might even have been a free show. Anyway, so we're stuffing all these CDs, and I make these. I think we did about, I want to say 200 CDs, maybe. I know we did a shit ton because we were able to fit them all in a backpack. But I then hit up, my dude, and was like, hey man, the CDs are done. I'd like to go to the mall and kind of start handing them out and promoting the show, because I think the show is going to happen that weekend. And I contacted the other band, and I gave them their stack, and I said, hey, we're going to go to the mall. I don't know if you guys want to go with us or if y'all want to hit up somewhere else. And they're like, no, we'll hit up somewhere else, and blah blah blah. So we were able to cover more ground, and so they went and did their thing, and then we went to a mall and did ours. And again, he still didn't seem very enthusiastic about it. But it is what it is. It was something that I was used to doing. And so it was a natural thing for me. It might have made him feel weird. I don't know. It's only speculation of why he wasn't into wanting to do it. I don't know. But either way, that was one of those kind of first red flags where I was like, all right, man, like, I need to just, I should have just took a step back and just been like, you know what, again, go back to my mentality of like, this is your band, you do what you want to do. But there were many, many other instances where shit like that kind of happened. But anyway, so I was playing shows with them. We were having fun. We were, having pretty good turnouts. Bikers ended up liking us. We ended up getting invited to a biker rally out of town, and it was out in the hill country, and we went and did that, and that was really fun. Again, I left that show kind of pissed off, though, because, I'm going to say this because it's relevant for later on, for a conversation that me and him had. But every show that I played, I always gave it my all when I came to playing. I took my playing very seriously, and I do that in everything that I do musically. I'll be goofy on stage. I'll have a good time, but at the end of the day, I practice, and I want to rehearse as much as possible because I want to be able to play my parts. Essentially, if the power was to go out, like I want to be, or like say the lights went out, I'm still able to play my parts without having to look at my bass. I want to be, I want to know my stuff. You know what I mean? I don't want to fuck up at shows. And so, I took that very seriously, even with this band. And I'm proud. I can hold my head up and be proud and say that I never fucked up live. And if they were little fuck ups, I was able to cover them. You yourself as a fan would have never known. But I've never fucked up so bad that, like, the band would look at me and be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Whereas when we played that biker rally show, that's exactly what happened with our main guy. And he was so hard on me and the drummer about, being perfect. Yet he would get distracted by the girls in the crowd. And this particular show, if it wasn't for the drummer and myself being really tight with each other and understanding that, we may have to adjust live, that fuck up would have been more prevalent. He got distracted, and he ended up playing a riff longer than he was supposed to, and he got turned around. And if it wasn't for me and the drummer realizing it and covering for him and extending a section of the song, it would have looked bad. And I've been fortunate enough to be in most of the bands that I've been in. We practice so much that when that situation comes, we're able to deal with it. And most fans don't even see it. They don't notice it. They don't recognize it, which is good. So, that's one thing I will pat myself on the back. Every musician that I've ever played with in bands, for the most part, that's a bravo to them too. Just, having that synergy and knowing each other very well is very important. So I told you that because, again, that is going to come into play later, in some stuff that he told me. But anyway, everything was going good until around the mid to tail end of our little tour that we were doing in San Antonio. And I say tour, but it was just, we had a shit ton of shows lined up. And we were basically just trying to raise money so we could go to the studio. We had already gone to the studio. We had finished up the studio stuff. And like I said, we were coming towards the tail end of our shows. The rest of those shows, we were just finishing out the year. I think we had like 4 months left of the year before we were just trying to knock those out and then get ready for the new year, which going into the new year was when we were going to start hitting the studio really hard. And I didn't know this. I found this out later. Well, the drummer had basically had a conversation with the main guy and had told him that he said, hey man, I know we have a lot of shows to finish out the year. I'm going to finish up these shows. And then after that, I want to move on to other endeavors. I don't want to keep doing this. Because at the time he had finally gotten his dream job. There was a job that he had been trying to get for months, and he got it, and he wanted to pursue that, and he had a new girlfriend, and music wasn't a top priority. And I later on found that out by having a conversation with him. I didn't know about all this stuff. At the same time, I had gotten a new job, and I was enjoying. I was in a better place, and I was trying to financially be in a better place to take care of my family while also doing the band stuff. And we'll get into that as well. But with the drummer, unbeknownst to me, he had a conversation with the main guy prior to me even joining the band. So how I found out was we were playing a show, and the drummer had told the main guy this out in the parking lot while I was setting up stuff. We were literally about to play a gig. And the drummer told him, he's like, hey man, I'm not going to walk away now. I know we have obligations and I'm going to be a man of that and I'm going to honor that and I'm going to play those shows. But I'm letting you know now so you have ample time to try to find another drummer to replace me. So when those shows are over, it's an easy transition. And the main guy didn't take it very, very kindly. He took it as again, I'm trying not to assume, but based on his reaction, I think he took it in a negative way. Because when he came in and he started talking to me, and he was kind of almost bashing his friend. And these guys were friends prior to this band. And he was just basically telling me, like, I can't believe he's pulling this. It was always supposed to be me and him. And, he told me he wanted this as much as I do, and da-da-da-da-da. And, like, he was just real butthurt over it. And so, of course, I wanted to know, what's going on. So I wanted to hear the drummer side of the story. And I went and talked to him because I basically told the main guy, like, hey, man, people grow out of things. People change, and life tends to change. And, things don't always stay the same. So, if he's not happy and he doesn't want to be in the band, then, I don't have a problem with it. I'd rather have him, out doing what he wants to do. I don't want to force anybody to do something they don't want to do. And if he's not happy in the band, then it's going to eventually reflect on our music and on our performances. Like, I like the dude. Like, I don't want to have music become the thing that separated us as friends. Cause I saw these guys as friends, and so I didn't really understand where he was coming from as far as like being upset about it. It's like, bro, at least he came to you, man to man, and told you, hey, I'm going to finish these shows, but there's an end game for me. And, I'm letting you know so you're not surprised by it. Like, I respect the hell out of that decision, and to be able to come and talk to somebody and tell them that, like, and be that open about it. Like, that takes a lot, of maturity. And, I appreciate it, and I have respect for it. So I went and talked to him, and I was like, hey man, what's going on? Like, I heard you wanted to leave the band. And he flat out told me, he's like, hey man, I had a conversation with this dude prior to you getting into the band that, like, I had an end game. He's like, I didn't even really want to be in this band. Like, I did it to help him out. He lost his bass player and his drummer, and I know he wanted to play music. I happen to play drums. And so I told him that, I would fill in until he could find somebody. This was never supposed to be permanent. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, man. Like, this was never supposed to be a permanent thing. I did this purely out of love for my friend. And I was just helping out a bro. And I was like, that makes sense. And I was like, well, hey, man, I thoroughly enjoyed playing shows with you. I'm going to enjoy the rest of the shows that we have lined up. And, like, I respect the hell out of you for at least giving him that much of saying, like, hey man, I'll play shows until you can find a drummer. And so me and him, we're on good terms. We left on good terms, and I would like to think him and the main guy left on good terms, but I don't know. On the last show that we played together was the last time that I saw him. I haven't seen him since. So, I said my goodbyes at the last show, and that was it. Because again, I ended up leaving the band not too long after. So what ended up happening there was the drummer went on his way. I was starting to kind of help him find drummers while we were doing shows, before our initial drummer left. And, the main guy ended up finding a few potential drummers. So one night I'm at home and he calls me and he's like, hey man, I had this guy coming to the next rehearsal. Can you make the rehearsal? I was like, yeah, dude, I can make it. No problem. And he's like, all right, cool. So we were set. Now, the way that our rehearsals worked is the job that I had at the time, I worked 12-hour days. So I would work from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I worked 6 days a week. And he knew that, so we would set our practices a little late in the evening. For the most part, never had an issue. He told me from the get-go, when I first started practicing with them, that I could leave my equipment there if I wanted to. So I wasn't having to lug it back and forth. And especially once I got that job, I lived kind of far from where he lived, and my job was kind of out of the way too, so it wouldn't have made sense to leave work, drive home, get my gear, then drive to his house. It'd be really late by that time, so it made sense to leave my gear there. And I used to leave not only my bass amp, but I used to leave my bass there. Now, again, I say that because that's relevant when me and him have our discussion. So he calls me and he lets me know, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah, I can make it, like, no problem. And mind you, I've never missed a rehearsal. I never missed a show. I was always there, even though I didn't have my own car at the time. Because I took this stuff seriously. The night before we're supposed to have a rehearsal, that day my mom gets a call. Now, I remember I told you my mom was a private driver. She takes care, at the time, she took care of a lot of people from, like, overseas, from, like, the UK and stuff. They come down to Texas and they want to live that cowboy lifestyle for a weekend. So there's a ranch out in the boonies, in the hill country, where you can do that. You can go to this ranch, you can rent a cabin, you can live in a cabin, and they do a bunch of cowboy shit. You ride horses, I don't know, they do a bunch of cowboy shit. That's the best way I could put it. Just do a bunch of cowboy shit. So my mom would take a lot of people from the UK. They'd come down here and they'd want to do some cowboy shit. So my mom would take them, and it's about a 2-hour drive from the city. And she ended up getting a call for that trip. So as soon as she lets me know, I end up calling the main dude, and I'm like, hey man, my mom has a trip. It's a really good trip. It's a 2-hour trip, and it's going to be the day of the rehearsal. She's going to be out of town during that time. So when I get off of work, I don't have a way to get to you. So do you think you could possibly pick me up and we can go to practice right after that? Or do I need to get an Uber, or do you want to reschedule? Like, I left it up to him. I said whatever he wanted to do, I was willing to do. If you want me to take an Uber, I'll take an Uber. If you want to come pick me up, that's even better. Or if you want to reschedule, or if you don't need me there, let me know. And he told me flat out, like, nah, man, I'll come pick you up. Like, everything was cool and kosher. Like, he was cool that night. And he was his typical self. He's like, nah, man, I'll pick you up, no problem. So I thought we were good. And at that time, I actually had my bass with me. So the next morning when I went to work, I took one of my bass guitars, the one I typically would use for practice. Excuse me. I took it to work with me, and I had it in the office. And I was a driver at that job, so there was a main office that I would get my runs from. And so I left my bass there with my boss and did my job like I normally do. And then I want to say, I think I even got off early that day. She let me leave early. I want to say that I did, because I know the sun was still out. But anyway, the dude comes, picks me up, and I get in his truck, and we start driving to his house. And again, I thought we were in a good place, so I'm trying to shoot the shit with him like I always do. And he's very standoffish, very, like, not wanting to talk, very short answer type stuff. And out of nowhere, he basically goes, hey man, I just want to let you, and this wasn't warranted. Like, I was talking about something completely different, and he just kind of blew that off and was just like, hey dude, I just want to let you know that I'm not a fucking cab driver. So you need to figure this shit out, because I'm not going to do this all the time. And I looked at him like, are you fucking serious? It's one time. I've been in this band almost a year. I've never asked for a favor. And furthermore, I called you the night before to make sure it was okay. Because I even told you, and I told him straight to his face, like, dude, I told you that I would take an Uber. You said no, that you would come pick me up. So why is this an issue? And why are you even talking to me like this? Like, that's what pissed me off, was the fact that he was like, it was the way he said it. It really threw me off. And he's like, well, I'm just saying, man, like, I'm not a cab driver, so I'm not going to be picking you up all the time, man. I was like, no, I heard you. But at the same time, I told you that I would find a way if you coming to pick me up was an inconvenience. So don't try to sit there and play it like you had no options. I gave you the options. You chose to come pick me up. So how the fuck is this my fault? So we were already off to a bad start. We get to his house, and we're sitting in the backyard, and he calls the new drummer that's supposed to come and try out to make sure he's still coming. So we're sitting back there, we're talking, and now he's pulling this, like, I'm talking to you as, like, almost like an older brother type mentality, and I'm not having it. It's like, dude, I'm supposed to be your equal. I'm your bandmate. Don't patronize me like that. And he starts bringing up, the fact that, my mom brings me to practice all the time. He's like, I feel bad for your mom because your mom's always bringing you and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, why do you feel bad for my mom? My mom chooses to come and bring me to practice. My mom likes to come to my practices. If she didn't, she wouldn't come. She comes because she wants to. She comes because she enjoys hanging out with your wife. It's the same thing with my wife. My wife and my mom both liked hanging out with her wife, with his wife. They all got along. They would watch TV together, and they would shoot the shit while we were practicing. And I told him, and even more than that, dude, my mom has been to every single show that I've ever played my entire life, with maybe the inclusion of 2 or 3 shows that she couldn't get to because they were out of town and I was riding with the band and she couldn't go. So who are you to tell me about my mom? Like, she's doing this on her own will. No one's forcing her to do anything. And when he realized that wasn't going to work, he switched over to my equipment being at his house. And this is why I brought it up earlier. He brought up that. And I'm like, dude, you told me that I could leave my gear here because it was, a hassle. We both were on the same page, or at least I thought we were. And he goes, no, I don't have a problem with you leaving your amp here, but I find it very odd that you leave your bass here when you should be practicing at home. And I was like, bro, you know damn well I have multiple instruments. I told you when I started this band that I had extra gear, not only for bass, but for guitar and drums. Like, I have 2 other basses at my house. And even then, why are you questioning my bass playing when the fact of the matter is, you don't see me fucking up at rehearsals. You don't see me fucking up at shows. It'd be one thing if I was fucking up, but I don't. For the most part, I play these songs flawlessly. Why? Because I do practice at home. I do come to rehearsal prepared. So who are you to question what I'm leaving here when you told me that I could leave my stuff here? And as he was talking, I just felt like he was fishing. Like he was trying to get me to quit the band. There were a lot of other things that were said to me, and I don't remember at this moment, but I remember the way he was talking to me. I remember my thought process while he was talking, and that's one of the reasons why I don't remember a lot of what he said, was because in my head, I'm like, this dude wants me to quit the band. Like, he doesn't have enough balls to just kick me out. And so he's digging and he's trying to find reasons to kick me out. So it ultimately came to the point where I called him on that shit. And I was like, listen, man, if you don't want me in the band no more, just say you don't want me in the band and I'll leave. Well, that's not what I'm saying, man. I just don't think that you're in a position to be in a band right now. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you don't have your own car, and I had to go pick you up from work. I'm like, dude, it was one time. Like, you're really you're sitting on that one time, and I even told you that I had no problem taking an Uber, but you're gonna dwell on that. I've never missed a fucking show, and I've never missed a practice. I've never thrown any excuse at you for not showing up. I was always here on time, and sometimes I was even early. So again, if you don't want me in the band, man the fuck up and tell me you don't want me to be in the band, and I'll walk. And then he looked me square in the face and was just like, I think it's better that way. So he still didn't have the balls to fucking muster up to be like, you need to leave. So I was like, that's cool, man. I got up. I walked into the living room. I went to his wife. I shook her hand. I said, hey, it was a pleasure. It was really nice knowing you. You're awesome, but take care. And I walked out. And she's on the couch like, what the fuck? Like, she looked at me, and then she looked at the dude and her husband. She's like, what's going on? I walked, got my shit, put it in his truck, and because before I did that, I had told him, I was like, I'm gonna go outside and call an Uber. And he's like, no, I'll take you home. I was like, nah, dude, it's cool. I'll just call a cab. He's like, nah, man, like, let's not be that way. Like, I'll take you home. It's cool. Like, now he's trying to make up to me in some way, but I'm pissed off, So I was like, whatever, dude. So after I said bye to his wife, I remember going to the garage, and I grabbed my shit and I started throwing it in his truck. And he was taking a while. And then he finally comes out. Come to find out, his wife was giving him shit. And I found out later that his wife was basically like, you looked for so long for a bass player, and you're just throwing this dude out for what reason? And his excuse to her, which he told me in the truck, was like, he was basically saying like, yeah, she doesn't understand, she doesn't get it, and I told her, it's rock and roll, baby. Like, you're not gonna understand it, you don't live it, and blah 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 blah. I'm like, dude, I don't even understand it. Like, you're coming from left field with this, bro. Like, I don't even understand where you're coming from. And he's just like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, she just don't get it. I was like, whatever, dude, take me home. So as we're driving home, it's like he's almost trying to make up for what happened. And he's trying to tell me, hey, man, don't take it hard. You're a good bass player, and you're a really talented kid. And he called me a kid, which really fucked with me too. He's like, you're a really talented kid, man. Don't let what happened discourage you. I'm just looking for a higher caliber of musician. And I almost wanted to be like, fuck you, dude. Like, you're telling me that I'm a great musician, and in the same breath, you're telling me you're looking for a higher caliber musician. Like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Like, that is a fucking slap in the face. So I'm pretty much ignoring him the whole ride. I'm not saying shit to him. And I get home, and I had some of the merchandise, so I end up going in the house. I bring him the stuff, and then he tries giving me money. I'm like, bro, I don't want your money. He's like, no, man, you played shows, and this is your. I was like, I don't want your fucking money. Like, that's not why I did it. And he's like, nah, man, like, take your money. Like, I'm not gonna. If you don't take it, I'm just gonna leave it outside on your driveway. So I took the money, put it in my pocket, and I thought that was the end of it. I get out of his truck, take my gear in the house, and I call it a day. Never badmouthed him, never badmouthed the band, never called him out. I left it. It was what it was in my eyes. It's like, whatever, dude. It was fun while it lasted. Well, I never really understood why he wanted to kick me out of the band. It didn't make sense. Fast forward a couple months later, now he's got his new band. He's got a new bass player. He's got a drummer. They're doing shows. I think it was about maybe a year later. I said a couple months, but I think it was about a year later. They ended up doing a podcast. And like I said, I'm still a fan of the band. So when they did the podcast, I tuned in. Not only just as a fan, but I also just wanted to kind of hear what he had to say about the new members and how he acquired them, and if he mentioned anything about past members. Again, my narcissism kind of kicking in there, you know what I mean? And so they're doing the interview, and that's when I found out why I originally got kicked out. The truth came out in that interview. And in that interview, the interviewer basically asked them, how they came about meeting each other and became the band that they are. And they basically told the story of how they met. Didn't say anything about my fallout with them, but he did say that when he talked to the drummer basically told him, hey man, I'm a package deal. If I come and try out for your band, I know this bass player. And so if I come try out for your band and you end up wanting me as your drummer, you need to take him too, or I won't do it. then it all made sense. He traded his loyalty for this dude. I was basically the sacrifice, if you will. Somebody who was loyal to him, loyal to the band, loyal to the music, and sacrificed to be a part of that band and do whatever it took to succeed. None of that mattered. I'd also like to mention he didn't know this drummer at all prior to the rehearsal. So he made a choice before even having met the drummer, before even knowing if he was a good drummer, and not knowing if the bass player was a good bass player. Now, again, he could have probably heard some recordings and whatnot prior to meeting, and that's what he was judging it off of. But to me, I feel like it's a huge slap in the face that he basically kicked out the only guy who was willing to ride that wave with him over two dudes that he didn't know. Mind you, he had spent a year with me about twice a week. We spent a lot of time together, and then we did a lot of shows. So yeah, it hurt a little bit. It stung. So I thought that was the end of it. I was like, well, at least now I know the truth. Whatever. I'm moving on. At this point, I'm already recording my own music, and I'm doing my own things. Fast forward again, about another 6 months later, the same trio is now going to go on a tour, and it's around wintertime. It's later in the year. They're about to go on tour, and I get a message from the main dude. And he sends me a message and says, hey man, we're doing this show on this date, and it's going to be our first show of the tour for this small regional tour that we're gonna go on. And so we're starting in San Antonio, and then we're gonna go from city and state, and then we're gonna end in San Antonio. And he's like, so I'd like to have his plan was to have all past members come to that first show, and he wanted to bring all of us on stage and basically thank us for our time in the band, and basically have us send them off to this tour that they were going to do. And I try not to be mean about it, and I basically message back. I'm like, hey man, congrats on going on tour. That's awesome. You guys are still doing things, but I'm gonna have to respectfully decline. And he's like, well, what? Why? I'm like, come on, man, don't play stupid. You know that we didn't leave on the best of terms. And I feel that it's a little odd that you're reaching out to me, and we haven't talked this entire time, and now you're reaching out to me, wanting me to show up to a show to see a band that I used to be a part of, that I didn't even want to leave. I was forced out, and now you want me to show up to congratulate you guys? Like, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, yeah, but I want to thank you guys for being the band. I was like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that. Again, I wish you the best of luck. I'm happy that you guys are moving forward, but I respectfully decline. I kept saying that. I respectfully decline. He kept pushing the issue. And then he turned it into basically attacking me in the sense of like, well, what are you doing, man? What are you doing right now musically? Are you even doing anything? I said, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm writing solo music, and I'm in the process of recording that music and hopefully releasing it soon. And he's basically like, dude, come on, man. Like, how are you going to play shows? Like, you're not going to be able to play shows like if you're just one guy. I'm like, that's not my goal right now. My goal is to focus on writing music and releasing it. And so he's basically bashing my way of wanting to do things musically. The shows, yes, they're a big part of me, but I get a lot from just writing music. And at the point of my life where I was at that time, just being able to write music and being able to record it was enough for me, because I was also learning a new craft. I was learning how to edit. I was learning how to record and mix and master. So my attention was focused on that. So I was getting something out of it, and he didn't understand that. And I'm like, look, man, you do you, and I'm going to do me. Like, if you want to go on tour and you want to do a bunch of shows, like, that's cool, man. You have the guys to do it. Have fun. That's not where I'm at right now. And, if you want to go and play Rockstar, I remember telling him, I was like, if you want to go play Rockstar, then by all means. And he took that and he ran with it. He's like, oh, I am a rock star, baby. I've made it, baby. Don't even worry about me. I'm a rock star. You're the one at home sitting in the dark playing music. Like, he was just rude. And it blew my mind, because he was acting that way, yet in the same breath, he's wanting me to go to a show and support him. Like, it didn't make any sense. And he kept pushing the issue. And I kept telling him no. And I got to a point where I basically told him, I was like, bro, like, I feel like this is like a rape scenario. And I know that sounds extreme to say, but I'm like, bro, like, I've told you no multiple times, and you're still not listening to me. Because it got to a point where he was just like, all right, man, well, I'll see you. And then he'd say the date. Like, so I'll see you then, right? No, you won't. I told you no. And he couldn't take no for an answer. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what, bro? I'm going to make it easy for you. Like, because now you're starting to piss me off. Erase me from your memory. Erase me from the band. I was never a part of it. I'd rather not be a part of something than have you constantly bugging me, because you've yet to apologize for the way things went. And he's like, okay, well, I just want you to know you're going to be the only one that's not there. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. If you think that that's going to motivate me to show up, and like peer pressure, like, oh, well, shit, I might as well show up. I don't care, bro. I don't. You don't even have to acknowledge that I'm not there. My name never has to be mentioned. Be happy for the guys that showed up, and give them appreciation and give them thanks, and leave me the fuck out of it. Because at this point, I feel like you're trying to serve your own ego and make it to where you can sleep at night. Because I've already told you no. So not only did you disrespect me when I was in the band, but now you're disrespecting me outside of the band. I'm not going to have it. So we ended up having this huge argument, and I just, like, he starts calling me immature and this and that, and I'm like, really, bro? We're really going to go there when you're the one who can't take no for an answer, and you're getting butthurt because of it. So I got to the point where I was like, dude, just fucking block me. And he did. And I was fine. So now fast forward to this past week. I'm still on their Facebook fan page. I follow them still. And I haven't seen them they haven't posted in a long time, with everything going on, and bands just aren't as active as they normally are. And then out of nowhere, I see a post from them, and they had a new EP. Now, I know that the funny thing is the drummer that I got kicked out for is no longer in the band. He was in the band for maybe 7 or 8 months, and then it ended up leaving. And this drummer is the type of drummer I looked into who he was, and this is a drummer who's a band whore. He bounces around from band to band to band to band to band to band. He has one main band that he kind of focuses on, but for the most part, he's just a band whore. And I found that funny. That's like, bro, you threw me away for a dude who wouldn't even commit to you 100%. And then here recently, I want to say in the last year, he ended up losing that bass player too. So the two guys who I feel are the reason why I'm not in the band anymore aren't even in the band anymore. He ended up getting another drummer from another band to fill in. And then I believe now, I don't know who the drummer is for the new lineup, but I know the original bass player, which he's a badass fucking bassist, he's back in the band. So good for them. Like, he was a badass bassist. So I was looking forward to their new EP because I liked his bass lines. So when I saw the new EP released, I was a little bit kind of I was excited. I was like, hey, I want to see what they're doing, because I feel like the band was finally going to go back to the original 3 EPs, the way they originally sounded. That's not what I got. What I ended up getting was an EP of music that is a mixture. It's literally a compilation EP. It has songs from all the previous members, and you'll see it down in the bottom in the fine print. It says that it's a collection of different musicians. One of the songs that they did is on that CD. And like I said, when I first heard it, I was like, this sounds way too familiar. Because like I said, the past 2 EPs that they dropped, those EPs have songs that originally I helped write. But when I listened to those songs, they were the bass tracks were redone. So my original bass tracks aren't there. The way I played the tracks aren't there. There's not even a remote vibe at all. Like, they were completely redone. But this particular track was note for note what I was doing. I was like, huh. So, of course, I did some digging, and like I said, I saw that he did give me a credit. But I don't know how I feel about it, because, again, that song was recorded almost 5 years ago, and it's just now getting released. And it would be different if I left the band on my own accord. But I feel like the way that the fallout happened, I don't know, it's a weird pill to swallow. In a way, in a sense, I'm kind of glad that the song's out, because I get to hear a song that I was on. So that's kind of cool, especially not hearing it for like 5 years and then being able to hear it again. I'm like, oh, hey, that was a pretty cool bass riff. It's a cool song, but I really dig the bass line. But at the same time, it's like, shit, like, I don't want to be associated with this band no more. Which is one of the reasons why I haven't said the band's name or people involved. Because I don't really care to give them the attention. Let alone, I don't want them coming after me saying that, I hurt their characters. Like I said, I have no hate for the band itself. I think that before I was even in the band, those first 3 EPs are solid as shit. I love them. There's some really good catchy songs on there. But I didn't have any input. I had no part of those. So it's easy for me to disassociate myself with it and listen to it just as a fan. Whereas this new EP, I don't understand why that song is there. I mean, I do. Because he's a tightwad, and I guarantee you he released it because we paid for it. And his mindset is, why am I going to record a song that is already done and we paid for it? So I can understand why that track is there. It blows my mind, though, that they waited, or he waited, this long to release it, considering that there has been other EPs that came out. And for me, it's all speculation. Again, I don't even know if... It's kind of one of those things where it's like, bro, like, the song is... It's cool, but I mean, it's one track, dude. Like, you could have trashed it. Like, how confident are you in your writing that you couldn't just trash the song? I mean, I don't know. And the fact that he didn't even come to me and let me know, like, hey, man, I'm gonna be releasing this track. You were on it, you know. There's just no respect for me. And I don't know if he reached out to the drummer too, because again, it was the drummer that was there when I was in the band. It was me and him, the two guys who aren't even in the band anymore. I got kicked out, and the other one wanted no part of it anymore. He was just like, I'm done. Which I know he probably don't have a problem with it. He's just like, yeah, whatever. I play drums on that song, whatever. But for me, like the way that the fallout happened, it kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. But I don't know, man. What do you think? Do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think I should just? Because again, I'm not gonna do anything about it. You know, I'm just ranting and kind of giving a story about this band, and I mean, I'm not gonna go after them and be like, hey, y'all need to pay me for my credit. And I'm not that kind of guy, man. In a sense, I don't really care. It was just weird. It's weird that I was in a band and we had a bad fallout, and then 5 years later, a song that I did comes back to haunt me. Like, it wasn't even on the following EP after I left. It was like 2 EPs later. You know, after he cycled through another group of people, and now has another group of people in his band. Like, he cycled through like multiple members even after I left. So I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about it. But leave me a comment. How do you feel about my story? Like, what advice would you give me? Because like I said, I'm on the fence. It's like I said, it's cool to know that I have a song out there. If I ever tried out for another band, I could definitely use that song to send to people along with my solo stuff, and be like, you know, this is what I'm about. This is what I can do. So I mean, there still is some usage for it on my end. And like I said, I'm doing a bunch of music myself, so it's not really that important. I think it would bother me more if I wasn't doing anything, but you know, I have the podcast, I have my solo music, I have a bunch of other stuff that I'm doing behind the scenes, with creating t-shirts and art pieces and stuff. So I'm not too worried about it. Again, this is a story I just wanted to share with you guys. I thought it was an interesting story of my life. And I'm curious to see how you guys feel about it. Leave a comment, let me know. And what would you do in this situation? You know, and if you enjoyed a story time, I have plenty of them, of band stuff and just other weird, crazy things that's happened in my life. If you guys want to hear more about that stuff, let me know. And if this was an episode that interests you, it's a little long, and you know, but if this is something that you guys are into, let me know, and maybe I can do some more of these. I'll tell y'all some more stories of my life. I've seen some interesting shit and been part of some cool stuff. So, but with that said, man, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always email me at cognitivediscoursepodcast@gmail.com. That's cognitivediscoursepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube. Just search The Cognitive Discourse and we'll pop up. I am still catching up. And I'm recording this episode today, and I'm going to release it today. I bumped it up. I have a bunch of backlogged episodes, but I'm bumping this one up. So I just want to also verbally tell you guys, I've been dealing with a lot of crazy stuff at home, with kind of depression and anxiety. So I'm trying to get back on track. I'm trying to catch back up on my YouTube channel. But go ahead and throw a sub and a like there, and you know, I'll get back on track soon enough with that. You can follow us on Instagram as well. I'm trying to be a little more active on Instagram. Look up Cognitive Discourse on Instagram and give us a follow. And maybe I see those follow numbers up. It'll give me the drive to continue to push media on that forum. But yeah, man, join our Facebook group at Facebook. Just type in The Cognitive Discourse in the group section and join our group. You can you can start discussions there. I have it. It's an open forum there. I don't have any really strict rules there, man. So if you want to even post a question there, or you want to post a topic there to try to get some dialogue going, you know, go ahead and do it. Just understand that when you do that, there's a possibility that it could be featured on an episode. So go in and know that, and I'll let you know if I end up featuring it. I'll leave you a comment and let you know. But yeah, man, I'm really interested in seeing what you guys think and feel, and I really want to start having more discussions with the people, the small group of you that listen. I'd like to have you guys involved. So thank you again for listening. We're already over 300 downloads, so I'm excited about that. That's awesome. Let's keep going. I'm trying to hit that 1,000 before the end of the year. So again, thank you for listening. Enjoy your Friday. Have a safe weekend, and until next time.